If there was ever a sign that the Cubs need a starting pitcher, we saw it in New York last night. And want to talk about that. Two guys that the Athletic says to keep an eye on as far as who could join this Cubs rotation, because this bullpen game isn't working. At least this bullpen game start thing got to stop. We're going to talk about Cody Bellinger and the business side of that Cody Bellinger trade after he made a statement against the Cubs, almost hitting 4 home runs, and more right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's get this show started. Great to see you guys today. I know I ask you to do that every day. But the Cubs looked like the Cardinals against the Yankees last night. Shame on you guys. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball channel. Thanks for being here. A lot to talk about on today's show. I say that a lot, but I mean, it feels like that because every day there's something going on. Cubs got destroyed by the Yankees in that bullpen start. Chris Flexen, it was okay. Jordan Wicks. I mean, I shouldn't even say okay. None of them were good. None of them were good. None of them gave you a chance to win. And it was one of those games where you realize how important starting pitching is. Last year, Jameson Taillon pitched against the Yankees, or was that 2 years ago? And he went into New York and he shut them down, former team. And him being on the IL right now really hurts. And not having Justin Steele really hurts. But you go into these games and you see that TBA there. This is what you get. You're in a lot of trouble. Would Ben Brown have been any worse than what we saw in that game last night against the Yankees? I thought it was honestly one of the worst performances of the season. I know it was 11-0. Aaron Judge put on a defensive display, and the Cubs were beaten up by former Cub Cody Bellinger. And I'm going to talk about basically the business that I think was really bad in that trade. I just think it was a bad business trade. Now, I'm glad we got Kyle Tucker, but Bellinger could have hit 4 home runs. He got one robbed by Tucker on a great catch. Hollywood Pete tried to steal another one, but the guy hit 3 home runs and got a curtain call. First ever 3 home run game for Bellinger in his career. And then on top of it, it was the first time that a guy facing his old team ever got 3 home runs in that matchup facing them for the first time. So, a lot going on there. Look, it's only one game, so I'm not super concerned other than to tell you that the Cubs are desperate for a starter. And we all already knew that. You're hearing the rumors. It feels like right now that they're going to do whatever they can to try to win this season. Who knows what long-term this is going to damage this is going to do to the Cubs, but I think we all want to win. And, part of us says, hey, you know what? That's why you build a good farm system to trade players away, so that you get good, right? And when you look at some of the players that the Cubs have traded away, there's some pretty good ones. And that's the price that you pay for big leaguers, right? And they had one of the most stacked farm systems in baseball a couple of years ago. And slowly but surely they're unloading those guys to try to win now. But, in New York last night, we never saw more of an importance of having some starting pitching. Now, our friend Patrick Mooney on a podcast with The Athletic basically said that, the Cubs are monitoring, I say zeroing in on Merrill Kelly and Seth Lugo as 2 guys that they would love to get. Sandy Alcantara is not coming to the Cubs. I don't think they're going to make a trade for him. You look at all of the analytics and everything tells you that the guy's no good. And then that could change, but right now he's just not. Now, let's start with Merrill Kelly. If you went Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, right now, Merrill Kelly's having the better year for the Diamondbacks. 3.41 ERA, 19 starts. He's striking out 107 batters in 111 innings and 29 walks. I mean, these are really good numbers. Someone that the Cubs could put right up there with Shota and Matthew Boyd, and you'd feel really good about having him in your rotation. Saw him come together for the Diamondbacks a couple of years ago. He's got World Series experience, and he's someone that I think the Cubs would love to have. Plus, he's a free agent at the end of the year, right? What would you give away asset-wise to get him? Because he is a rental, I don't know. So maybe it's not going to cost the Cubs as much as it would cost for someone that is going to be there for a while, right? So, we'll talk about that. Now, the other guy is Seth Lugo. I haven't talked much about Lugo yet, but, this is a guy who the Cubs would have an option to keep next year. It would cost them around $15 million to do that, but he's coming off of a really good 2024 season. He was the runner-up for the Cy Young Award, a 3 ERA. He was really good throughout the season, and someone who is coming off of an all-star campaign, right? And you're going to have to give up some prospects to get Lugo. Feel like he's a guy that I think Kansas City would give up. I think a lot of this just depends on how these teams fare. I think that's what the guys from The Athletic were talking about. I think they're right. But there's a lot of other teams out there that are watching these same guys. And the Cubs have the prospects to be able to go out there and make a deal. But who are you willing to give up? It feels like they shut Jackson Wiggins down right now so that they keep him available for the trade deadline. And it almost is like a car that's got, just under 60,000 miles that you don't want to go over that because the value goes down like 10 grand, depending on what year the car is. It's crazy that it works that way. Right. And I know because I had a car that I just traded in and they were like, look, if it gets over 60,000 miles, the value goes way down. I don't know why. It's just like a number, but if it's got 57, it's not that bad. 60 is a lot, right? So what's that mean? It means that these are two guys that we're keeping an eye on and we're looking at. I think you can take Alcantara out of that mix. Maybe Cabrera, somebody that the Cubs feel like, hey, you know what? We'd be a lot better off with him. They're going to have to trade some assets. Owen Casey's hitting like a home run every game now. He's turning heads because he is a guy that could go to the big leagues and he could hit home runs there. He's a guy that's in AAA right now that the Cubs could move to the major leagues and he would have an impact probably equivalent to Kyle Schwarber when he got to the big leagues for the first time. And it's just a difference of philosophy. When Theo was there and Joe Madden was there, Joe Madden loved to bring those young players up, get them in the big leagues, get a spark when the team wasn't hitting, get them in the clubhouse, bring that excitement. He found a way to use those guys. That was one of the secrets of success that Joe Madden has. Craig Counsell's different. He wants to bring a guy in, get their feet wet. Hey, if you start, you're not going to start. We're going to do an opener. We're not going to put a lot of pressure on you. We're going to ease you in. I'm not saying that there's one's right or wrong. I'm just saying that they're wasting an opportunity with Owen Casey right now to have some more left-handed punch, which they already have some, right? But you could always use more. And there's a bunch of teams licking their chops around the game right now that are going, hey, let the Cubs trade this guy to us because if they do, we're going to take advantage of it and we are going to get some pretty good players. So the Cubs better get something good back in return. And that leads me to the bad business of the Kyle Tucker trade. The Kyle Tucker trade to me I'm not just looking at, and I've talked about this on here a lot. I'm not looking at just the fact that the Cubs traded their first round pick, who's an everyday player now, and an all-star third baseman to get him. But they traded a lot of good players to get the all-star third baseman. And then on top of all that, which I ought to do a show just based on just the sheer volume of resources that the Cubs traded to get a one-year Kyle Tucker. They sold Cody Bellinger to the Yankees. They basically gave him away with $5 million to be a great player for them, for the Yankees. And maybe he fits better in New York, the legendary porch in right field or whatever, watching him, bust almost 4 home runs against the Cubs. But can you imagine if you were in charge of a business, now forget about the business being a baseball team, and you made this type of just business decision, right? People like, what's the war difference between Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker, right? What's the actual difference? Tucker's better. He's definitely an elite player. Bellinger's a good player. We saw Belly. 1 year he was really good. 1 year he was average, but he was dealing with injuries, whatever. Was he the difference maker Tucker is? No, he's just not. But he's a good player. And what I'm saying is like, there's a difference, but it's not a difference. And then you throw all those other resources in with $5 million that you could have used to get maybe a bullpen pitcher. Maybe you could have used that to sign someone long-term. I don't know. But when I look at the math and I'm seeing, these prospects that you gave up to get Isaac Paredes pitch, and then I'm seeing that, now you're trying to find a back-end bullpen guy, and maybe Hunter Biggie could have been one of those guys for you. And I hope he's doing all right after getting hit in the face by a foul ball, but he's pretty good, whatever. You see the guys that you gave up that are one's an all-star third baseman again, and one's a rookie that everybody's like talking about. It's going to be one of the candidates for rookie of the year. And then you sold this guy with $5 million. Basically, you paid another team to take a guy that just hit 3 home runs off of you in a return. And you might not even have Kyle Tucker next year. I mean, if the Cubs don't win the World Series this year, you're going, what are we doing? Right? Because then you're going, well, you just gave away all these players. And go back and look at the prospects that the Cubs gave up for Michael Busch. And we gave up great pit players, 2 really, really top-notch, top 100, keep an eye on guys. But you got Michael Busch back. So you're going, hey, man, and we got him for a while. It's not a 1-year deal. He's becoming one of the best first basemen in baseball. You traded Gleyber Torres and 3 other dudes to get Aroldis Chapman, but you won a World Series. Nobody talks about that. But you got to be right with these deals. And then, when you add in that, and then these other players that you put all these resources in, and then, the Alexander Canarios and the Luis Vasquez's that, you just gave away, and Michael Arias's were on your 40-man, like without trading, without getting any value back. You just look and you're like, there's got to be a better way just to do the business aspect of this. And I've been around the game for a long time, and I know it's a tough job. But it's at the end of the day, there is a business aspect of this. That when you watch a guy hit 3 home runs off of you, you don't even have a starter for that game, and you gave away all these resources to have one dude who's really good. I don't know. And we'll see. I hope that the Cubs bounce back today, but they better win it this year. And I think they're going to have to make some really big, bold trades to get to the point where they can beat teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Padres to win it. And I think they're willing to do that. And it might be with a front office that's not even there next year. And maybe they go out and get a front office that's a little more business savvy. But there's other things involved in it too. And I know a lot of you guys are going to go, well, what about the owners? And they don't want to spend money and put it on the Ricketts. We don't know that aspect of it, but we do, and so who knows? Maybe they're like, hey, you can't do this. There's a lot of teams that contend every year, like the Rays, that don't spend any money, and but they're good financially. They're good with the business because they have to be. Oakland, how long until they're good again? It's coming, right? Kansas City, hey, they won a World Series not too long ago. They're bad. They're not having a great year, but they're putting the pieces together to be good again. You got to be good with the business part of it. And sometimes I just look at this and go, man, it just doesn't make sense to me. The business aspect of it doesn't make sense. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Maybe I'm crazy, but I guess after you watch them get blistered and Cody Bellinger's getting a curtain call, and you're watching there's supposed to be like a big league starting rotation, and you got nobody to go out there and get outs. And I mean, I give Aaron Judge a lot of credit. What a game he had. All right, here we go. This is a awesome game today. I'm excited about watching this one. This is going to be great. This is what baseball is all about. And it's in the Bronx, New York. And it's a 1:05 Eastern time, noon Central time showdown. Max Fried against Matthew Boyd. These are two of the best in baseball. And I got to give I was just on the front office a little bit. Look, I got to give him credit. The Matthew Boyd deal, huge, right? 9-3, 2.52 ERA. He's been one of the top 20 pitchers in baseball this year, American National League. Max Fried, 11-2, 2.27 ERA. This guy's going for the Cy Young Award. This is what it's all about. Cubs and Yankees. Yankees are really good at home, 30-17 at home. And the Cubs are probably not happy about the way that game turned out. I know we're not. And I think they're going to be fired up for this one. This is going to be great. I love the uniforms too, by the way. Love seeing the Cubs uniform. Love seeing the Yankees uniform. Two of my favorite hats in baseball. And so we'll see if we get back out there again. So anyway, look, we're keeping an eye on a lot of trade. There's a ton of trade talks. After today, one more game, then the All-Star break. The draft's coming up. I know that draft talk isn't something that you guys really burn on a lot, but we'll cover that. Maybe it'll be somebody that we know a little bit about, coming our way. And, we'll see kind of how all that breaks out as well. But get in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for being here. We've had a lot of good times. I haven't been on this team that hard. I've really loved watching this team, but man, that was a stinker. That was the worst game of the season to me. And, I'm hoping that that today we're screaming at the TV for good things if we're not there, instead of Cody Bellinger home runs. I mean, come on, man. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, and we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Hey, and I appreciate all you guys that are watching, and again, for being part of this. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, and you're helping us get there. We're doing it. Thank you.